Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here today. I want to look at all your beautiful faces, and I guess I will. I might just ask a question here and there to make sure that I'm still talking to you. But so I'm really delighted to be invited to just share my story about swimming that all really came about organically this spring. I have several other passions, including music, and but this, like my life seems to go, things just sort of unfold in an interesting way. And I don't think my swimming journey would have come about. I really wonder if I would be open water swimming now if it hadn't actually been for the pandemic. I was a pool swimmer, never competed, but I swam, really took up swimming in college and swam when I was pregnant with our two sons, and really just fell in love with being in the water. I always loved being in the water. I grew up here on Bainbridge Island and spent my summers often in the Puget Sound, carving boats out of found pieces of styrofoam and cutting them out of old floats on the beach, and had a grand time as a kid in the waters around the island and up in the San Juans as well, sometimes in the summer with my family. So anyway, fast forward, this spring, everything shut down and I really missed the pool. It was always been, the water's always been my retreat and my place of reflection, and just afloat has always been so magical. And so when the pandemic happened, the pools were shut down, and my neighbor Dave, who lives just behind me, he's been swimming for years in the waters off of Fletcher Bay with no wetsuit, and I've always been intrigued with it. And this spring, he said, I ran into him and I said, gosh, I'm going to have to try open water swimming. I got to do it. And so, probably 2 months went by, early spring, and he was going out swimming. And finally, I think he just got really fed up with me, just talking about getting a wetsuit and talking about wanting to swim with him. And lo and behold, he called me one day and he said, Mary, he said, I found this really great deal, and I got you a wetsuit. So this part of the story just makes me want to cry, because truly a really thoughtful, unexpected gift. He said he found a great deal, but wetsuits are not inexpensive, and he would not let me pay him for this beautiful brand new wetsuit and a hood and booties. And he gifted me this wetsuit, and he came to my door with this wetsuit. So I think that was probably, I think it was in June. And I was flabbergasted, and I said, well, let's do this. So I
found your wallet, but didn't see a receipt.
I'm sorry? Oh, someone was unmuted. Anyway, so I got wedged into the wetsuit and went for my first swim with Dave, and the journey began. So I spent a few weeks swimming in Fletcher Bay. I did several swims with Dave and got my bearings about me. But open water swimming is almost like a completely different sport than pool swimming. Obviously, there's no lines on the bottom to follow. Obviously, the temperature of the water is much colder. You're dealing with currents and wind and waves, and of course, sea life. And every day is different. I do miss the company of seeing folks at the swimming pool, but I've also found such freedom and solace and just this gift of feeling really alive in the cold water that you just can't get in the swimming pool. I always hated being cold, and I'm still sort of surprised that I've built this tolerance for it. It is cold every time I get in, but there is I mean, around the world, cold water swimming has taken off. In England, I mean, there's decades long, from way back, groups of swimmers, of women and men, that for decades have gone out to plunge into the cold waters off the coasts of England and all around the world, to be in the cold water. It is now as things go, they're always studying how these things affect people, and they've found a huge link between cold water plunging, just getting submerged, even splashing cold water in your face, and cold water showers, and the positive mental the mental health benefits of getting cold and being in cold water. And again, I hate being cold, but it's different in the water. And I've come to look forward to it, and sometimes find myself anxious to get in, just like I get anxious to play my guitar again. So anyway, so my swimming continued through the summer, and eventually, I think in July, I thought, I'm going to take off this wetsuit, and I started swimming what they call skin swimming. So just swimming in my bathing suit and a normal swim cap and goggles. Around the world, there are people who compete in open water swimming, and they have very strict rules. So they're incredible swimmers who swim miles and miles and miles. And the rules are very strict for competition, that you cannot wear a wetsuit, you cannot wear booties, you can only have a little swim cap, goggles, and a normal swimsuit. I have zero interest in competing. I am interested in going longer and longer distances, and just curious about swimming in other waters, and maybe doing a crossing to Blake Island next year, and maybe swimming around the island over the next year over the summer. But I'm not interested in competing, and my journey is definitely with myself. So August came around, and I was still swimming. I started going out by myself, sometimes with Dave. And August came, and I put a post up on Facebook about a swim, and I just shared that I had started swimming, open water swimming. And then I swam again, and sat down and wrote another post and put it up on Facebook. And then I swam again and put another post up. And time went by, and I realized that the writing became enmeshed with the swim, and that I started to, I craved to go to the swim, and then I began to really crave and want to swim so that I could write about it. And every time I go swimming, there's something new that happens, and it's been beyond exciting. And in this time where we can't plan for anything in the future, and everything that is going on right now, every time I get in the water, I know, for one, I'm going to have this adventure, which I'm craving. And as there's this feeling of feeling trapped, and our hands are tied, and we're in this eternal wait for lightness to return, and connection with others and the way that we knew it, and not knowing where we're all going. Swimming has been huge for me in being able to escape, have some adventure, and let go, and really pull me into the moment. So much of swimming is about breathing, and so just that alone, there's so much talk about mindfulness and how do we cope with what's going on right now and get through our day. And breathing is the foundation of swimming. If you can't get a deep breath, you can't swim. And the cold water, when you get into the cold water, you immediately want to suck in your breath. And so there's been so much practice for me in learning to overcome the cold and really focus on my breathing. So it's a place where you have to really focus on your breath to accept the cold and to move through it. And so which again brought me around to my own mental health, that it's really supported me in coping with my journey through life, which is like everyone, we all have serious things we deal with, and it's been a pretty heavy for me the last few years. So,
can I ask you, do you use a snorkel?
no.
No.
I don't use a snorkel, and I do dual breathing, so I breathe on both sides. So I every third stroke, I take a breath. So I alternate sides. And for open water swimming, in college, I learned to breathe on both sides. And that's proved really, really useful for those of you who are swimmers or interested in open water swimming. Again, I'm no expert. This is my first year, but my own experience just the last several months. Dual side breathing is really useful, especially when you're running into a sudden wind coming up and waves or boat waves, or both to get a good breath. If the waves are crashing on my right side, I can just breathe on my left side and shield myself from the waves, because if a big wave's coming, obviously trying to take a breath into it doesn't work very well. So dual side breathing is useful as far as training myself to use both sides. On a typical swim, I just alternate back and forth. It's also really useful as far as sighting and keeping track of where I am, and also keeping myself safe. What's the work of what keeps me in the moment and open water swimming forces is that you can't totally zone out. Unlike in the swimming pool, where you can zone out and you know you're not going to run into a boat or a standing buoy, a paddle boarder, a log. You know the water's clear, so you can zone out. But in open water, you really have to pay attention to your surroundings. So dual side breathing also gives me a chance to glance on either side and keep track of what's on either side of me. Dave really taught me how to work on my stroke too, which in open water is different. It's more of a straight arm pull through. I found works really well. When I take a stroke too, every 8 or 10 strokes, I'll slightly lift my head up like a hippo out of water to look ahead, because I don't have a line on the bottom to guide me. So I'll pick a far off object, stationary object, or a tree, or the mast of a sailboat, or a house far off in the distance, and keep that as my sight to keep me sort of on course. So open water swimming. So my writing began via Facebook, and I found that people really enjoyed my writings, my musings on what was going on, and some of them were pretty personal, and they're kind of whimsical reflections. And then Facebook things, come and go and disappear, and a lot of friends I know aren't on Facebook. And I'm not a huge fan in some ways of Facebook in general, but and I realized it made sense to just take my stories and move them to a blog, and I wanted a place to have them all together, because they really just they took on a life of their own, and I really love writing, and so I created this blog just so that I could have all of my reflections in one spot, not be dependent on Facebook. I'm still taking my blog posts and I'll share them to Facebook because folks follow them there. But it's been interesting to have the blog too, because I have relatives and friends in different parts of the world, and it's through the blog, I can actually see where people are reading from around the world. And I've had some relatives in Norway and some friends in France read them. And it's been fun to realize that, my stories are getting shared out there. And so...
Can I ask you something? Because I've read your blog. I love your writing. If I need to calm down, it's beautiful, beautiful writing. But I see beautiful photography. Who is your photographer?
So thank you. So I am the photographer. My my main page of my blog, the image, I think I did not take, and I was on a summer swim in August, and so that is the one photo. I believe that is, yeah, that is the, yeah, no, there's 3 photos that are not mine. So this main page photo was taken by a boater. I was out swimming and I thought, gosh, it'd be really fun to have a picture to put up for my reflection of me swimming. And so, and of course, being Bainbridge Island and the way things go, of course, I saw this little like speedboat floating near the shore, and there was this young couple in the boat, and I just swam up to them and I said, "Hey, weird question, but I'm out here swimming, wondering if you might take a picture. I write stories about my swims, and would you mind taking my photo?" And it turns out, of course, that we had mutual friends, and he grew up on the island, and he was about 15 years younger, but I just loved it. So this nice young man took my picture and took a really nice picture. So and then the other pictures that are not photo credit goes to other folks. Where I did one of the really fun, happy things that came from my open water swimming is that I offered a little mini class through Odyssey Middle School. My younger son attends Odyssey, and they have on Fridays, they invite parents to teach a group of kids something that they're passionate about, that they have expertise in, that they love to do. And so being the pandemic, these classes and service learning all are happening after school because of liability issues in the district. So it's all optional, but we're still, Odyssey parents are still offering and leading kids 3 Fridays in a row on different adventures, everything from running 101 to we have a French class this round. So in the first round of mini classes, I stepped forward and decided to do a 3-week mini class on open water swimming. And so there are 2 photos on my blog that are 2 of the fantastic mothers that helped me, Catherine Connolly and Christina. I'm forgetting her last name right now. Anyway, these 2 wonderful mothers helped me lead the swim class, and that they took the photos that I have here of my 2 of my days with 7, 8 kids swimming. But otherwise, the photos are mine. I just took them with my iPhone, and yeah, and so that's been a fun part of this. So yeah, so my blog just kind of came about out of sharing my stories on Facebook and realizing I wanted to save them, and I wanted them to be all in one place and give it that space to just be what it is. So it's been really wonderful and heartwarming too to just to connect with people through this. So
it's so unique. I mean, I don't think I have ever seen a book written about open water swimming. Did you ever think about doing something like a book with your blogs, your writings, and your pictures? And
I haven't. I hadn't thought about it. I've had a few folks ask me about that, and I don't know. At this point, I'm
not there, huh?
letting it be right now. I think I don't know. I mean, eventually, I think maybe I think about that. I've become so interested in open water swimming that I've been I follow other swimmers through YouTube, and I've been doing some readings of. I'm reading a book right now, I'm forgetting the name, on the history of open water swimming in women and history of swimming in women. Geez, we couldn't get into the water. Took a long time for women and girls to be able to get into the water. It was all for men, and it was all naked initially. And so that got my hackles up too, realizing number one, how lucky I am to, what girls and women fought for just to be able to get into the water, learn to swim. And that's really a whole fascinating subject right there. And also realizing too that it's also really a gift and something not to take for granted that I know how to swim, and that that many people never get the chance to learn to swim, and that I think too about just teaching swimming, that based on where you live and who you are, and what resources you have, you may never learn to swim, and that's really upsetting to me, that it's it's such a gift, and I'd like to help change that. I think of how I can help bring better things to the world, and I think how many people don't ever get to learn to swim. That it's I had access to a pool, and parents who could pay for swim lessons, and access to the water, and being able to grow up here on Bainbridge Island with so it's definitely made me pause and think about just the gift of being able to learn to swim, and that.
So you were born here on Bainbridge, or you're a native?
I was born in Berkeley, California.
Oh, Berkeley. Yeah.
Youngest of three. And my father grew up on Bainbridge Island. And when I was 9 months old, my parents decided to move back to the island. My mother grew up in Seattle. And so when I was 9 months old, my folks moved to Port Madison. And my dad's older sister is my neighbor down the road. My aunt and uncle live just down the road from me. So I grew up here on the island, went off to college in Colorado, and then in Olympia at Evergreen State College, and then
my son went there. Yeah.
Married my high school sweetheart. We were together, and then we were apart, and I guess we were meant to be together. So Josh and I have been married now 20 years, and his mom lives on the island. And I've been here a long time. I lived away from Bainbridge for about 7 years of my life. And
so did you start swimming in Westport Madison?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just down the road from Frog Rock.
Yep.
So I thought, if you'd like, I picked out just time-wise, I think, do we go till 12:15 or 12:30?
Whatever.
Well, I thought I pulled up two posts to read, and a short poem. I thought that might be nice. So
yes.
All right. So I'll give a read here. This my titles for my posts. I just put the date that I wrote them, and the time I wrote them. One little side note: all of these reflections that I've written have happened between like 11 p.m. and 2 in the morning. And my ritual has become, Josh, my husband, can't get over it. But he doesn't understand why I do this, but I write all of these on my little phone. I like to climb in bed, and it's finally quiet, and I'll find a photo that I took that I like for the day, and I'll pick my photo, and then I'll just start writing. And it's become this little ritual, but it's my just a little note of how these happen, or when they happen. It's late at night. So anyway, so this is August 24th at 11:52 p.m. I wanted to, excuse me for 1 second. I'm just going to show you I don't have the image up. I'm going to just read, but I'm not totally prepared to show you the image, but the image is of the bank. And if you want to go to my blog later, I don't know how to pull it up right now, so I'll just read.
That's okay.
This is where I start and end all of my swims. the roots down to the water's edge, hold the muddy bank together, and I trust them every time to support my clumsy clamber in and out of the bay. 2 old frayed ropes are tied to the roots, providing some assistance getting in and out. I mostly rely on them getting in to assure a slow entry. Without them there, the mud is so slick, a slow entry is nearly impossible. Today's swim began at 9:20 a.m., an enormous departure from my habit of late afternoon swims. This marked my first morning in the cool waters. The sun was still coming up over the trees when I slowly let the cold water sink into my skin. There was no warm layer, no warm currents, no steady sunlight beating down to take the chill off. But somehow it was okay. I found my eyes wandering up to notice the tall fir and cedar trees lining the bay. It's funny what you notice when you change your routine, shake up your habits in some new way. I've always said I hate the cold, hate getting chilled. Today I realized there's a difference. I felt the cold, but no chill. Well, at least the chill waited to come after my swim. But while in the water, I tried embracing the feel and carving my way forward, focusing on the clearness of the water. Before I knew it, I felt fine. And the coolness felt okay, even good. I felt alive. Warm water sometimes makes me lose focus. The coldness kept my mind sharp. The salt water held some magic today that was different. First off, it was morning and the bay was still and empty and the water was its normal healthy green color. The surface was carpeted with little bits of algae, but otherwise was clear. Swimming at the start of my day felt like a brand new adventure, and I guess I needed that. Never before had I braved the morning for a swim. I needed to be stretched and challenged physically. The water didn't disappoint. I guessed it would be colder than a late afternoon swim. It most certainly was. I had already been atop these waters in a rowboat less than an hour earlier to check our crab pot outside the bay and restock the bait in anticipation of my niece's visit, hoping to delight her with success in her first time crabbing. With the sun scattering across the bay floor, held in my aquatic trance, my body on autopilot freestyle, I calculated that I had enough time to leave the bay and take the long morning swim I hoped for. Once outside the spit, I headed towards Fletcher's Landing, but knew where I would end up. My crab pot was soaking just south of the landing. My morning adventure was suddenly about to get more exciting. I swam parallel the beach, past the 2 houses to the north of the landing, and setting my eyes on the red and white buoy, made a beeline with steady strokes pulling me onward towards my goal. As I approached our crab buoy, it occurred to me that pulling up a crab pot from the water with nothing but a swim buoy for flotation might not work so well. I tried it anyway, and the pot rose up from the deep. Inside, 2 good-sized crabs. One night prior, Anders and I caught our first Dungeness crab, 7 inches, and these 2 looked quite large as well. Curiosity overtook me, and I unhooked my swim buoy so I could hold it in one hand as I bobbed up and down in the water, tilting the pot sideways to see if the crabs were males, my waterlogged mind considering 4 things. 1, swimming with a crab pot 200 yards to shore for the sake of 2 maybe legal-sized crabs was perhaps pushing my luck and not a fun idea. Arriving to shore, number 2, with the pot, even if I did succeed, was useless as I had no way to carry all of this home in a timely fashion. 3, I was likely to get dragged from the water that I do so love if I messed around much longer, as I must have appeared a bit batty to any onlookers as I wrestled the crab pot without the benefit of a boat, and may startle some poor person thinking I was drowning. And 4, I didn't have my crab license or driver's license on me. So I took one more look below the water, trying to assess the sex of my 2 crabs, and in the process of tilting the pot, one got away. As I let the pot float down into the depths, I was careful to stay clear of the line. I then strapped my swim buoy back on and headed home. Tonight, as I rinsed the 2 crabs that my niece and I caught this evening by boat, preparing them for a meal tomorrow, I thought about crab shells and trees. Crabs grow these tremendously thick shells with barnacles and such, but as they grow, they have to climb out of them and grow new outer shells to fit their bigger bodies. If they didn't shed their shells and literally climb out of themselves, they wouldn't grow. They couldn't survive. Today I climbed out of my shell and maybe grew a little. I want to survive. And the evergreen trees. I admired them on my swim today, even as they blocked the rising sun from warming the waters around me. For the trees give life to the waters I swim in. They keep growing skyward. All the while they stay rooted, stretching their limbs outward, while possums and raccoons scamper around them, and owls perch in their branches, and insects burrow in their bark, and humans hang hammocks in them and forget they are living. I want to be like a crab and a tree, rooted and generous and always reaching for the sky like a cedar or fir, well protected and resourceful like a crab, but willing to shed my shell so I can keep growing, and tolerant of the cold and wet, even in winter. As I made my way back to the muddy bank, I looked down and saw a small maple leaf resting on the clam bed below. Fall is coming. So,
Just beautiful.
August 24th.
I just could visualize it, everything. And how do you figure out the sex of a crab? I just
Yeah, so on the underside of the shell, if you turn them on their back, the males have this inner, well, it's kind of a phallus-shaped little central shape that's kind of finger-shaped. And the females do not have that. The females, if you look at the bottom of a female crab, they have this big main central design on their shell and no central piece.
Okay.
That's a very unscientific way of describing it.
No. Thank you.
So I have a quick poem, and then if you'd like, I could read one more and answer questions. Does that sound good to everybody?
Perfect.
Okay. So this is I think the only poem I've written, and it's kind of dark. Some of my posts are lighter and some are darker, but there's truth. There's truth, and here it is. This is September 29th. The image is a muddy image of my foot planted in the mud next to the rope where I start many of my swims at the head of Fletcher Bay. Again, I apologize for not being able to find it for you quickly today. The steps down to water's edge, worn round by naked feet. I go there to look and mark my days by strokes through icy water. I am looking for something cast away, buried under my own dread. Grieve a loss for what never was, only shadows of what may have been linger. The murkiness feels safe somehow. No one looks too closely here. Few slip into the salt with me. It's better alone. The cold comes hard, settles in, a steady march, sinking through layers of tired flesh. The pinch of a year sucked out of me with one drive to Paulsbo and back. But one understands. I lead my own cold march into the slick mud, hoping to swim 1 year of life back into me, a day an eternity. But wait, outside the bay, a crab waves to me. I am not alone. Here is where I rest.
Lovely.
Water. Yesterday morning, I watched a frolicking quartet of young river otters gorge themselves on fish at the entrance to the bay from the dry perch of my small aluminum skiff. In the afternoon, I had my foot brushed by a seal at the tail end of a companion swim with my neighbor Dave. The seal again ushered us up the bay, back to our starting place. His body appeared below me in the murky water like a yellow shadow, slowly moving by me. And today I reveled in the solitude of an evening solo swim outside the bay. The sun was going down fast, and I knew I wanted the warmth and light that appeared as the day wore on, hoping to catch at least a few pockets of warmth. Again, I pushed through my thin wall of fatigue, reminded myself that the water would hold me, just as it always does. The water called. I had a window of time, and the stillness of the day extended into the evening. No wind. Today was different, however, beyond the lack of wind. It is different every time, No two swims feel the same. Yesterday, during the seal encounter, the water felt soft like a cozy hug. This evening, the water felt hard, but looked fuzzy, murky with a late August bloom of algae. I tried a new entry today. There was no warm top layer to soften the shock of cold, but my mind went to the story I watched yesterday about a group of Irish women. They bathe in the sea every day, year-round. As I cinched my buoy belt and stood surveying the waters, I thought of them. One commented that the swims were liberating. I splashed my face, poured the cold water down my arms several times, and took a breath in. I dove under, but this time I stayed under, pulling myself forward through the chilly liquid, liberating myself from life on land. I hugged the cold, welcomed the rush. There's a magical thing that happens the moment I take that first plunge. Suddenly, I feel so alone, so separate, chilled, but also powerful and fearless, free, completely liberated from my life on land and all it demands and asks of me. When I surfaced after my first dive, I headed south and let the waters guide me. I thought about how swimming is like a perfect dance, two bodies moving through space gracefully, guiding each other, sharing space, but never colliding. There is always room for me in the water. She is my dance partner. I smiled throughout my swim today. My gratitude for this gift of water and a body that can swim, and the gift of time to take these swims, and all that this new adventure has taught me. As I ended my swim, I had a moment of regret, of disappointment that I didn't discover this astoundingly awesome calling earlier. And then I thought of the seals again. I needed to build up a thick skin. The seals arrive right on time, here to these waters, wrapped in the perfect amount of blubber and skin, swimming gracefully to wherever they must go. They swim as far as they need to go, every day. My life brought me here right on time to this water, this magic. I wasn't ready before. How strange to think that I might never have stumbled into this watery adventure had it not been for the entire world turning inside out. I used to swim laps at the pool, a half mile usually, maybe 3/4 of a mile if I was really motivated. Ironically, out here where there are no walls, no lifeguards, no sauna, no lanes to guide me on my path, I swim 4 or 6 times as far. The lack of order, of limits, of people is liberating. I think I understand those Irish women. They too have thick skins. They too swim with the seals. There you go.
That's beautiful. Swim with the seals. And that water in Ireland has to be pretty cold also.
Oh, yeah. So I want to just scroll down, and then I'd love to just chat and answer questions, and we can just talk for the end. But I wanted to scroll down and show you. So here's my blog. If you want to check it out in the future, if you don't know about it, it's maryswims.blog. And it's just a WordPress site I put together. And I'm posting, I'm writing every time I swim these days. And people have asked, how much are you swimming now? And I'm swimming 2 or 3 days a week. I really am trying to let go of any expectation or plan on that. And I've never swam in November before until this year. I'd never done a swim in October either. So I'm kind of just really trying to just, like everything, try and stay open and see. You know, sure, it'd be fun to say, yeah, I swam all year, but you know, it's sunny today. I'm looking out going, gosh, I want to swim today. But I'm really just trying to not put any expectation on myself, and really just sort of follow my heart. And when it's really cold, it was like really cold and dark out yesterday, and I did have to talk myself into it. I really had to remind myself that I would benefit and I would be glad I went. But man, it's hard. It's getting harder looking out, especially when the air is so cold. And as far as swimming, that's really where the risk of getting too cold or hypothermic comes in. I mean, I have a full wetsuit on, so you know, I'm warm in the water, but it's especially like for my friend Dave, who's swimming without a wetsuit, like as soon as you're out of the water, you want to get dry quickly, because your body keeps cooling down for another half hour or so after you swim. And a few times this summer, even on warm days, and I was just skin swimming, no wetsuit, I would get out, and there were a few times where I would get so chilled that I'd get out and be okay, and then this chill would set in from my core, and like kind of travel out, and I would be chilled to my core for like an hour or two after sometimes, and I don't love that. That's challenging, but anyway, so here's my blog, and please enjoy it and share it. And, maybe someday I'll put it all together in a book. I don't know. Right now, I'm just kind of trying to stay in the moment.
What's that picture of right there?
Right here. So this is what I want to show you. So this is one of the few pictures I have where I'm with a bunch of other people. As I said, most of my swims I do alone, but I've also really enjoyed, I've found that there's really joy in swimming with others too. But this is an image from the Odyssey kids. So this picture, I'm over on the left in the red, and with my little float buoy behind me. And this is a group of 7th and 8th grade Odyssey students who, I think this was the second week. No, this was the first week. So when I took the kids out, this is the first Friday for a mini class. And I just think this is maybe my favorite water picture of all time. Pictures, I won't read the whole blog, but it's pictures speak louder than words. It was a joyful moment, an absolutely glorious moment with the kids in the water. And I'm not sure which mom took this picture, but it's priceless. And
Is it raining?
It's raining. It's pouring rain. So I did 3 Fridays with the kids. The first Friday, I borrowed just hoodies for the kids, and I really wanted to give them the full experience of cold water plunging. The kids all arrived, and they were like, "Yeah, there's a float out in the distance." They're like, "Oh, can we swim to the float?" And I said, "No, no, no." It was like, so I forced them to slow down, and I gave them my whole spiel on cold water swimming. And one girl came in a wetsuit, which was fine. But for the first day, I really wanted the kids to not have a wetsuit. For the second and third Fridays, we rented wetsuits, so that all the kids had wetsuits, and were able to go and do more swimming, and we went in small groups and swam out to the nearby float. And we also swam out to the pilings. You can see in the distance, there's these 2 pilings off of Fletcher's Landing, with little birdhouses at the top. And I took groups of kids out, and we explored there a little bit. But it was a really powerful moment to watch the kids just take the plunge with me, and they were just incredible. It was the most uplifting day. It was fantastic. So that's the Odyssey group, and
It looks like when it started pouring, they put their arms up in the air. It was like this, wow,
yeah.
What a joyful thing. I mean, it was like, the sky is just raining like crazy in it.
Yeah, and the water, I mean, so wild, and with the rain, it's like, I have to remind myself, I still catch myself, oh, well, I can't swim today, it's raining out. And it's actually, it felt warmer. I mean, it's like swimming in the rain when the waters merge, where earth and sky are both water. I mean, it was really a special moment. So
I just finished. I just wanted to say I'm really proud of you. I couldn't do what you're doing in a million years, and I'm super proud of you. And it's amazing to hear you writing again, because I remember you writing as long as I can remember. And I'm so proud of you that you started writing again. And your writing is beautiful, and I'm so happy that you're sharing it with people. And I also just wanted to say, I think that it is so important as a mom it's like impossible for us to get time alone that is just holy time, all about you, yourself, and your own spirit and soul, and listening to yourself and giving yourself that time. It's just precious, and that's really important, and I'm proud of you, and I applaud you for doing it, because it's so hard for most moms to do, because life is all about the children, always. Children, work, spouse, everything else except for mom. So
beautifully said, Laramie. Beautifully said. It's so true. Yeah. Vanera?
You may have already answered this, Mary. I wondered if you'd had any problems with any fish bothering you.
Well, I've not had any problems with fish bothering me. However, I did have one very close encounter with a seal, where I was swimming back into Fletcher Bay, and there's definitely a resident seal that comes quite often, but I haven't seen him of late, and I'm surprised because the fish are coming in up the stream. But I was swimming one day, and I felt this brush on my foot, and saw a shape below me, and I'm certain that that the seal was checking me out and came very close. And my friend Dave, he's shared on, there's a Facebook page, Western Washington Open Water Swimmers, but he shared a story the other day. He was out off of Bainbridge, and he was about 100 yards from, like, or not even 50 yards away from, like, 8 seals, and they were just frolicking and going wild in the water. And he's had seals come and mess with his buoy. So with open water swimming, I have a yellow float buoy that is basically just has a little belt on it, and it's this little inflatable pouch, and it floats behind me. And he mentioned that the seals have been very curious with his float buoy and come and mess with him. But I haven't had any animals come close to me. And I've managed, knock on wood, so far to avoid running into any stinging jellyfish yet. I know in the South Sound, the red jellyfish were so bad this summer that some people just stopped swimming in the water because they were so thick, and their tentacles are crazy long. I have a post, and there's an image I took of this lion's mane jellyfish. Their tentacles are like 30 feet long, and so I mean, they're crazy, but they're so cool. Anyway, so no, I haven't had any fish bother me. I do have irrational fears sometimes. I swam off of Manitou, and I decided to swim way out to these pilings. I wrote about this as well. And it did occur to me at one point, I thought, wow, like, would an orca whale come in and eat me? Like, because I mean, I look like a seal, right? I'm like black, like rubbery black. And I thought, that's probably pretty unlikely, but it still kept me swimming really fast out to the pilings.
Well, we're going to have to wrap things up because we've gone way over time. And I want to thank you so much, Mary. That was a beautiful presentation, and we are all going to be looking at your blog. And so thank you so much. And I also want to thank Barbara for being our tech person today. And just remember to come back next week, next Monday, and you can join that something to talk about here at the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center.
You're here.
Everybody, bye-bye.